What is up, everybody? We are back here at King Film Sports for the college football week 1 betting locks and game predictions here. Recording this video before the start of week 0. I posted my predictions for that video a few days ago, so be sure to check that one out there after this. But here we get into a loaded week 1 slate, lots of weekday games, then a bevy of great games on that Saturday, and then a couple on Sunday, and one to end it off on Monday. Going to be going through all of the big ones here, starting it out with the Thursday games. And to kick it off, we have Boise State traveling to face the South Florida Bulls. And in this one, we're taking USF plus the 7 points here. I love the veteran Byron Brown as the USF quarterback. His play has been a little bit volatile at times. They have had a few decent performances against great teams, and I just see a big fall off from Boise State, specifically without Ashton Jeanty. I know that Maddox Madsen wasn't horrible in that Fiesta Bowl against Penn State, but he was far from special last season, and I also think that this defense is going to fall off in big fashion. Remember last year when that week 1 game, they went down to Georgia Southern and it was like 60-48, something up there. So I think that we could see a shootout here. Definitely think that both of these defenses will struggle to start off the year with tackling. I love Byron Brown, the dual threat, and I think that USF keeps this one close, if not win outright. I think Alex Golish, talented young head coach, has his boys ready to go. Then we travel up to New Jersey, Ohio at Rutgers here. Give us the Rutgers Scarlet Knights minus 14 points. And in this one, I think that their veteran O-line and ground and pound game under Shiano will be able to get it done here. I'm not big on Ethan Kaliak-Manis, that veteran quarterback known for his days at Minnesota. He was decent last year with Rutgers, but I just think that they'll be able to roll the ball over against this Ohio team, and they will be playing from ahead the entire game. Parker Navarro, bit of a veteran on this Ohio Bobcats team, but they've gotten worse over the past couple of seasons. I think that this year is going to be a struggle for the Bobcats, so give us Rutgers minus the 14. I think that they might hold this Ohio team to single digits and easily rout them at home there. Then we get to a big one in Arrowhead Stadium between Nebraska and Cincinnati. And in this one, I think that there are plans for the Cornhusker fans to take over the stadium here, so might be a quasi-home game for them. I like Dylan Raiola to make some slight improvements heading into his sophomore season here, and I expect under Matt Rule's 3rd season them to make that big step up here and definitely knock off this Satterfield-led Cincinnati team. I think that his days as head coach of the Bearcats might be over after a struggle this year. Not high on their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, as well. So I just think Dylan Raiola won't even have to play great in this game. He'll just have to be a game manager, and Nebraska has much more talent there. They're favored by about a touchdown, so give me the Huskers to win easily there. Then we get to the Friday slate, a couple of intriguing games here, and we started out in Waco, Auburn versus Baylor, and I'm taking the Baylor Bears to get a bit of an upset here. This game was sitting at a pick'em for most of summer. Now Auburn emerging as a 2.5 point favorite. We'll see if that spread goes up to 3.5, maybe a spread play on this Baylor team. But I really like Sawyer Robertson and the strides that they made at the end of last season. I like Dave Aranda. He was on the hot seat last season or a couple seasons ago, and they've squared away the defense a bit there, so I definitely think that they could give Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma transfer, now in Auburn in his first start, a bit of trouble there. He was abysmal in some big games there for the Sooners last season, and I'm not so sure he's going to get it right here in a tough Friday night spot with that atmosphere. I know that Hugh Freeze has loaded this team up with portal acquisitions and the skill positions and on the defense as well, but I just think you're going into a tough environment against this veteran Baylor team here. I think it's going to be a great game. Probably a lot of turnovers as we were accustomed to with this Auburn team last year, and I think it should be a fun one, but give me Baylor to win that one close. Then we get to Georgia Tech and Colorado. A lot of unknowns here for the Buffaloes, even though this one is in altitude. A big home field advantage, Georgia Tech coming cross country. I do like the Yellow Jackets to get this one done pretty easily. Haynes King, obviously a big veteran for this Georgia Tech team, and I think that they are poised to go on a run here. I think that their win total is around 7. Definitely think that they can clear that pretty easily and contend for this ACC just because of the veteran nature of this offense and that running attack, and also their defense has improved vastly over the course of last season with that big win over Miami, and then they should have beaten Georgia to end the season. Thought that they made some great acquisitions. On the Colorado side, I really don't know what's going to happen. The defense wasn't great last year in Big 12 play, was kind of mediocre, and it was really just Travis Hunter and the Shedeur Sanders show. And now we don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be the Liberty transfer Caden Salter, or is it going to be the talented young recruit Juju Lewis? We will see there. Maybe they do some rotations. We'll see. But I do think that Georgia Tech has the superior roster and coaching. So I think that they get it done there in Boulder. Then we get to the Saturday action here. We have Syracuse versus Tennessee. This one's being played on a neutral site. I am very down on both of these teams. I do not expect any big success. I think that the fan bases will both be disappointed here in this battle of the Orange, but give me the Volunteers to win this one. I just think that Joey Aguilar, he'll have enough to get this one done. Will he have enough to supplant some of those more talented SEC teams later on? I do not think so, but this defense is still going to be great as it was last year, and although they did lose Sampson, the running back, I do think they had some good portal acquisitions, decent enough on that offense to get this one done against a Syracuse team who I think is going to actually be worse than last year as well there. So could be a little sloppy in that game. We'll see how much Syracuse can hang around, but give us the Vols to get it done there. Then we get to the one that everyone's been waiting for. Number 1, Texas traveling to Columbus to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes, the national champions. And in this one, give us Texas plus the points. This one was sitting at plus 3.5 earlier this summer. Then it was at plus 3. Now it's sitting at about 2.5. So don't love that one at that number. We're trying to get this little field goal leeway here for this Texas team, who I definitely do think is the better team. I'm not fully buying in on Arch Manning as the savior of this Texas football team. Quinn Ewers was supposed to be that 2 or 3 years ago, and it never really panned out. Showcased last year in the semifinal when they did lose to this Buckeyes team. This is the rematch of that game, but I just think this is the year that Sark has been building for. All of that culture, all of that line play here. I think that this is going to be a run-first attack. Arch Manning was known for his dual threat in some of those games last year with those running touchdowns, so I don't see him immediately lighting it up through the air, especially when you've got Caleb Downs and some other veterans on this Ohio State defense. I think this one is going to be a bit of a dogfight here, but it really comes down to the fact that I am not sold on Julian Sayin, the Ohio State quarterback here. He was just named the starter a few days ago, but I just do not think that they were sold on him. Keenholz, I know, is not a great starting quarterback, and he was threatening for the job there. So I do think that he has a bevy of weapons at his disposal. Jeremiah Smith, potential Heisman dark horse there on the outside, and they always have great running backs to fill after Judkins and Henderson left, and a decent enough O-line, although they lost a few pieces there as well. But I just think that Sayin against this great Texas defense, perhaps the best in the nation, will struggle here even at home. I think this one could be a little sloppy and wouldn't shock me if it were a blowout if we have a few turnovers on either side. But I do think that Texas gets this one done. I think they win it outright there. Hopefully we can get the plus 3 points. It's going to be a tough environment, but it will be a noon spot there. And I think that Sark will have his guys ready to go for some revenge in Columbus there. So give me the Longhorns to win that. Then next we get to an interesting battle here in state between Mississippi State and Southern Miss. A lot of these Southern Miss fans and Southern fans in general tend to think that Southern Miss has a really good chance here despite being a 2-touchdown underdog to win this one outright. Notably, they are bringing basically the entire coaching staff and a lot of transfer portal additions from the Marshall team from last year, which leaves the Thundering Herd pretty barren there in West Virginia, but the Southern Miss team should have a chance. I do like Jeff Lebby and this Blake Shapen offense to have some improvements this year. Maybe they get a couple shocking wins in the SEC, but really I just think that they are more physical than the Southern Miss team, a little more cohesion probably on that offense. That defense did really struggle there. So Braxton, the Southern Miss quarterback, the veteran, might have some success here. But ultimately, I do think that the Bulldogs are the better team with the better talent here. So I do think that they get that one done in a tough spot on the road. Then we get to Alabama and Florida State here in the noon spot. We know that Jam Miller, the Alabama running back, probably out for this one due to injury. But Ty Simpson, their quarterback, I do expect big things from. He's kind of in the similar situation that Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, was in last year, where he's been on the bench for a couple of seasons, just soaking in these reps from the second team. And he's a 5-star commit coming out of high school here. So under this Kalen DeBoer offense, I'm expecting special things against an FSU defense, which, yes, they retooled from the abysmal showing last year, even though they weren't even really the full problem. It was mostly Uiagalelei and that offense. So I do think that he will have some success with all those weapons and this great offensive line under this DeBoer system in this game, even though it is a very tough spot coming in here to Tallahassee. But really also comes down to the other side where Castellanos, I know that people think that he's a great player coming down from Boston College, but they really didn't watch much of his games other than the 2 against Florida State when he really shocked them. But he did get benched last year by the end of the season under Bill O'Brien there. So there's a reason that he transferred. They do have an assortment of other transfer portal players on this offense, as has tended to be the case these last 3 years under Mike Norvell. So I do think that the Seminole team improved a bit over the offseason. It won't be 2-10 this year, but asking them to defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide in the opening game of the season will be a tall task there. So I do expect Alabama to win with some margin. Then we get to the night slate. We have this interesting game here between the UTSA Roadrunners and Texas A&M, and give us a half unit play on this UTSA Roadrunners team, plus 23 points. I definitely think they are a sleeper to win the American Conference this year. Do not be shocked. It's a pretty open conference, and I think that they will win that one. Owen McCown, decent young quarterback there, and they do have a lot of veteran players there. Definitely improved over the course of last season, and then had some portal additions as well. And then this Texas A&M team really slumped near the end of the season. I think that they were 7-1, ended up losing 4 of their last 5, including that bowl game to USC. I know that Mike Elko has really tried to change this culture, but I do think that Marshall Reed will struggle at quarterback at times this season, especially in the passing game. I think that they will be able to maul this UTSA team when they want in selective spots, but I just do not think that they'll run up the score. So I do think that this one will be a bit of a closer game here. Do not be shocked if UTSA has a little bit of fight in them here and wins the American Conference, potentially grabs that G5 bid for the playoff there. So I do like their long-term prospects and expect them to keep it close, even in a tough environment in College Station to open the season. That brings us to a top 10 battle here. LSU going into Death Valley to face the Clemson Tigers. I like LSU plus the 4 points in this matchup. I think that Clemson has been very overrated this offseason. I really just do not know what the people are falling in love with. It was a very mediocre season by Clemson standards, which has been the last 3 or 4 years ever since the departure of Trevor Lawrence. I know that people are buying the hype in Cade Klubnik potentially being the best quarterback in college football. Well, I've got news for you. I think that Garrett Nussmeier is just as good, if not better than him. And they've both struggled with some turnover problems here. And Brian Kelly, I know that this LSU team under him has not won their opening game to start out the season. I think they know that by now. I think it is a very tough environment that they're going into here against Clemson, but they're used to this in the SEC. You're giving me these 4 points. Potentially we could get 5 or 6 because the spread has been ballooning as this Clemson hype has reached a fever pitch over the offseason here. But again, I do not buy it here. LSU, I know that they lost a couple weapons there, but they've been retooling, and Brian Kelly has made a concerted effort here to bolster that defensive staff after they ruined that Jaden Daniels Heisman season here. So I do think that LSU makes some big defensive improvements, continues what they did last year. I think that Nussmeier hopefully tones down some of those turnovers, and in that case, LSU will be in for a big day here. I think that they win this one outright. I think they're the better team over Clemson, and I think that they win that one there. Then we get to the late night slate here. Little old Pac-12 battle in Corvallis here between Cal and Oregon State, 2 teams with a lot of turnover from last year. 2 new starting quarterbacks for both of these teams. We've got Malik Murphy coming from Texas, then a pretty bad year at Duke last year, now on his way to Oregon State. And then for Cal, you have Devin Brown, who will be a substantive downgrade, in my opinion, from Mendoza last year. So really, I just see a low-scoring, very ugly affair. Hopefully not too many turnovers and short fields to work with here. I do think that it will be a defensive battle here. I think that Wilcox, this might be his last year with this Cal team just because of their underperformance, especially now being in the ACC. But I do think that he is a skilled tactician on the defensive end. And same can be said for Oregon State here. So I just think that we're going to get a low-scoring affair there. So give us the under 51. And then an intriguing matchup in the Rose Bowl here between 2 old Pac-12 foes as well, Utah and UCLA. And I believe that this line was around a pick'em a few months ago. Now it's steamed up to Utah minus 6.5 here. So that one is pretty interesting. Utah coming off of the disappointing season, Devon Tampere, they got out of the transfer portal. I think that he's going to be much better than the quarterback play they had there, whether it be the pig farmer last season or Cam Rising, who was tough off of injury there. So I do think that the offense will look a bit better here. The defense, we know under Whittingham, is always solid. They're always able to run the ball, always skilled in the trenches. And then on the UCLA side, I mean, just a complete disaster from Nico Iamaleava. He didn't even win the starting job. We've got Luke Duncan coming out at starting quarterback here, and I do not expect him to impress at all against this Utes team. So even though it's a home game here, I do expect some big Utah fan support, and I do think that they roll all over this UCLA team who struggled last year under first-year head coach now entering his second season, Deshaun Foster. I do not think that he's a great coach there, especially on the defensive side of the ball where he is supposed to specialize. So I do think that Utah will be able to run away with this game. Then we get to the Sunday action here. We've got a neutral site game in Atlanta, Georgia between Virginia Tech and South Carolina. Give us the Hokies plus the 8 points here. I think that this spread has been violently inflated. People think that South Carolina will improve off of last season. They definitely had a great year with Lenora Sellers, but I do see some regression there on the offensive side of the ball. No Rocket Sanders there. I think that that will hurt trying to fill his void in the running attack, and I do think that Sellers will not be too impressive. I do not think that he'll be on a Heisman level in terms of throwing the ball, even though this Virginia Tech defense is not necessarily elite. I do expect the Gamecocks to win this one, but Virginia Tech under Brent Pry, another year of Kyron Drones. I think that he will make some solid improvements here. Make this one a respectable game against a Gamecocks defense, which, yes, it is very good. Lost a couple players. Still got Dylan Stewart, who is just a game wrecker on the edge position. But I do think that Virginia Tech will be able to keep this one close and a bit of a dogfight there. Definitely think that it will be a physical ground game between these two teams, and I think the Hokies will be able to keep it close there. Then we get to the night game on Sunday, which is at Miami. And they host Notre Dame, who got to the championship game last year. Lots of differences between these two teams, though. Miami trying to replace the production of Cam Ward. They've got Carson Beck here, and I'm not a total believer in the long term with this Miami team. They're always going to be decent in the trenches with Mario Cristobal as that head coach. I do think that they filled in the portal with some good offensive additions there, and hopefully their defense is able to improve, as that was the real issue last season. And I think that it will be able to some degree here to start out the season. And really, I just think Notre Dame will regress a lot here. I do not think that they are a playoff type of team. Riley Leonard was the perfect dual threat quarterback for this team last year, and I just do not see CJ Carr on that same level, along with some of the other pieces that they lose in the trenches here. So I do think that Miami gets this one done. I also expect a ferocious atmosphere, but we'll see if we get it. It's kind of on and off for this Miami team when they're playing those home games at Hard Rock Stadium. And then that brings us to the final one here on Labor Day night at North Carolina. We've got TCU coming to town for Bill Belichick's first game here with UNC. So I'm very interested to see how it looks. No betting lock on this game here, but the spread has been slowly rising here. TCU now favored by over a field goal. We might have to get involved there. But a lot of unknowns from this UNC team. We'll see how Gio, their new quarterback, looks. TCU bringing back Josh Hoover. I think that he was decent last year. Hopefully he can tone down some of the mistakes. Their defense was a big issue there, and we'll see how this UNC offense looks here. That's not Belichick's specialty. I do think that over the course of the season, Belichick will make some great improvements for this UNC defense, but not so sure what we're going to see here. They brought in a lot of portal additions here on this UNC team, so we'll see how that coalesces in this week one. But I do think that the Horned Frogs are the superior team in that one, so I'll say that they narrowly win that one there. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think of my predictions and betting locks for these big games. As has been the case the last few years under this portal era of college football, a lot of unknowns before the season starts here. So we will be watching it all in week 0 and week 1. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.